Maybe I could learn how to be a truck driver. Mav, you have the number of that truck driving school we saw on TV, Truck Master, I think it is? I might need that.
The starting point is getting that certificate eligibility, whether you've had 10 years, because there's so much criteria that that's contingent upon the veteran's service record. Right. If you served in the last 10 years, I could give more of a straightforward answer. Yeah. But for somebody who's been out a little bit, there's different ways. Let the VA determine. And the starting point for that is va.gov education. You know, you're going to start off with the eligibility. Am I eligible? And that's going to give you, the veteran, or your qualifying dependents, like, yes, you are eligible. And it's like eligible, how to apply, where, and then how to apply for your respective benefit. And then you have what you need. Then you go to the facility, whether they're an approved facility or they become an approved facility. Hey, this is my certificate of eligibility that guarantees my respective benefit.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the podcast Caution Wide Right, brought to you by Compliance Navigation Specialists. I'm Luke, your host, and today we're going to be talking about a topic that opens doors for military veterans and their families. It's how to use the GI Bill to kickstart a career in trucking and transportation. And I get it, as a military brat, transitioning from military service to civilian life can be challenging. I've seen it, but for many veterans, trucking and transportation offers a fabulous career, a stable, rewarding career path. And, I just want to especially stress that, did you know the GI Bill isn't just for college degrees or for military veterans alone? It can fully cover the costs of CDL training, helping both veterans and their dependents to step into a high-demand, well-paying jobs in the transportation industry. Joining us today is someone with firsthand experience navigating the GI Bill benefits. Our guest, Matthew Benko, is a military veteran serving over 20 years in the Air Force and Air National Guard, and he's successfully utilized multiple chapters of the GI Bill in different ways, chapters 30, 1606, and chapter 33, which we'll break down further in the podcast. But he just has a lot of extensive knowledge on how to use these benefits that can be used to earn a commercial driver license at an approved CDL school like CNS Driver Training Center here in Leaditz, Pennsylvania, or wherever you're going to be going to get your CDL. While he personally didn't use his GI Bill to obtain his CDL, he is well versed in this process, and is here to share that valuable insights to you. We're going to discuss the process of how to use the GI Bill, different ways to look at it. And then, of course, getting the tips of how veterans can, if they're considering transitioning their career move, what do they need to think about? And, of course, the rewarding career. I'll touch on the rewarding career of trucking. So let's get started. Matthew, welcome to the podcast.
Oh, Luke, well, thank you so much for having me here. It really means a lot to be able to talk about my experience, how I use the GI Bill, and to share this information so it serves as an access point for other veterans and their dependents who are qualified and approved to use the GI Bill benefit.
Yeah, awesome. And we're going to cover your career a little bit, but I do want to get on this touch point. You're comfortable behind the mic. You've a couple different podcasts. Tell me about that.
Oh, well, thanks for asking for that. I, as they say, cut my teeth in podcasting a few years back when I was working at Montgomery County Community College, and I would connect and talk with veterans, and it turned into the Veteran Power Hour, which was at the Benko radio, which is really cool because I really tapped into something that I never knew was there, and it was just it was great. So it started off at the radio studio, so I was introduced to some awesome equipment. I was spoiled right off the start, and I did about 16 episodes there. Took a break from that. I transitioned into another role, and I realized how much I missed it. And now I do the Acknowledge to Action podcast, which to date, 26 episodes, and it's to date, it's been veterans and active duty military personnel to share their story, where they're at, and where they're headed.
Yeah, I love that. Any way that we can capture military veteran stories, there's so much value and there's so much interesting information that can be gained there too. I appreciate that and love that. And my background behind the mic, when I went to college, I was a radio DJ, so the college radio station, and so the whole room with all the different buttons, and it was like overwhelming for me. Like,
oh, it was. I was nerd. The first time I'm like, press this button, and whether I had one listener or where there was 1,000 listeners on episode 1, it was a good nervous. I'm like, okay, and I realized like, wait, it's just be yourself, have fun, and make it work. And,
exactly.
And but it is. I know the feeling. Like, here we go.
So I didn't dive into your career a whole lot in the intro because there's a lot there. But you served over basically 22 years with both the United States Air Force and the Air National Guard, Senior Master Sergeant. Mm-hmm. And a lot of your time, or at least your most recent, you were a C-130 Loadmaster, right?
Yes.
So that's a lot of logistics. For those who don't know what a C-130 is, giant military aircraft that can haul both, equipment, vehicles, personnel. My experience with the C-130 is either taking military hops and sitting in the red canvas seats, cold inside, loud inside, but doing military hops. And then the other side, the AC-130s where there's, air to ground, military operations. It's pretty fun. But tell me a little bit about, being a load master. There's a lot of logistics involved with that as well, which is great for us in the trucking industry.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, the C-130, if I say so myself, is the coolest aircraft you could have. It's the most versatile. Yes. It has 4 of the prop engines, which there's not many of those around. But it's a fixed wing, and it does a lot of cool stuff. And as a C-130 Loadmaster, I was able to do a lot of those cool operations, whether it's training or in tactical environments. And it's something. I had a great career, and in fact, I'm just finishing up. I officially retire from the Air Force Air National Guard. May 15th is my official retirement date. So it's
congratulations.
Thank you, and
thank you for your service, of course.
I appreciate that. Yeah. I had so much fun doing it, and yes, you're absolutely right. The C-130 world is a logistics hub. I moved cargo, I moved personnel, all sorts of things. I've done air. What's cool about the C-130 is I was in a tactical unit and we used to do airdrops. Yeah. So that sounds like just what it is. It's not Apple sharing digital. It's the Air Force are the OGs when it comes to airdrop and with parachutes and with cargo. And that was few things in the military, in my opinion, really top that, because it's just such a coordinated effort and it's so fun to be a part of and see. So that was a big part of what I did in my career, and it was fun, it was challenging, it was rewarding. Yeah. And it came down to moving cargo on planes, and then here I think we're going to talk about it is in the CDL world. It's just you get to move it on a truck.
So I do want to mention, you mentioned airdrops, and I'm thinking, airdrops, if you want to see these guys in action, you're dropping equipment, parachuting cargo to certain locations, and it can be quite incredible of how they can pinpoint of where to drop things. I think about it. I read a book on the candy drops during World War II. And I know you served in a lot of different operations. So it's in the military, it's not just, let's say, war airdrops, but it could also be, there's a whole lot to the military of supporting, whether it's like food and other things for different people across the world. What were some of the airdrop stories that that just really stick out for you?
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because last year at this time, and this is something I'm allowed to talk about. I was over in Jordan last year at this time, and I was part of a coordinated effort to do humanitarian airdrops in that part of the world, which a lot of us know it's a pretty contentious area. And so I was there, and I was a part of a joint coalition that provided airdrop aid, food, water, supplies, all the basic stuff that sometimes a lot of us can take for granted. And so that was, not only was it just a year ago when it was my most recent overseas military operation, but to be a part of that was something special in a lot of different ways, more than I'm able to put the words in the moment right now. But that was really great about being in the C-130 community, in the Loadmaster world, and in the joint operation, because it's not just Air Force doing it, it's Army, it's international forces coming together to just providing the basic needs and the humanitarian aid. And there's actually regulation where when dropping humanitarian aid and all that it was something. I'll say it was really an honor and a privilege, and I'm proud to have been a part of that. And it was quite the experience.
That's awesome.
It was so that was a big. That was the most recent one. Also, as a C-130 Loadmaster, we provided humanitarian aid as well. I don't remember the exact year. Sometimes the years blend after doing it for X amount of years, we did hurricane relief aid in the States, also in the Caribbean area. So I remember going to Puerto Rico a few years back, and then we would stage at St. John's, and just to get food aid. And I remember taking it was a utility crew down. I don't know what state they were from. Maybe Alabama, Texas, but we would fly in to an Air Force base or an airfield, pick up the individuals and their equipment, generators, trucks, all that comes with helping the local area, and then taking it to the final destination.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that they could provide, start the rebuilding process.
Exactly.
And whatnot. So that was another proud moment to be. So it wasn't all just military operations in a tactical environment. It was I got to do and be a part of a lot of missions that was humanitarian driven.
Yeah.
And
that.
Where you're leaving the place a little bit better.
Exactly.
Or helping it get better.
Exactly. Well, again, thank you for your service and all of that. And so I want to touch on now the process. A lot of your, whether it's, I think you even you helped with career transitions while you're in the military as well, or training. And then I know there's a lot of volunteer stuff you do on the side. Oh, one of the things I did mention too, I was curious, what was it like being honored for Philadelphia Eagles as a 2024 hometown hero?
Man, it's been quite the year. Wow, that was awesome. I'm born and raised a Philadelphia Eagles fan, just for the record. I grew up in the Lehigh Valley, Allentown, Bethlehem, Easton area. And that's an interesting area because you have New York influence, you even had some Pittsburgh influence. You have a diverse sort of influence, and it pains me to say that there's some Dallas influence. I'll never understand that, but it is what it is. But born and raised Philadelphia Eagles and Philadelphia Phillies. But yeah, I was this past year. It was it was the game, Eagles versus the Jaguars.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's where Saquon Barkley did his the most epic, memorable running back move I've ever witnessed, and I just happened to be there. And the Eagles, what an amazing opportunity that they do for service members. I was lucky enough to be selected as one of the hometown heroes, because there are so many hometown heroes out there. I had some amazing friends and colleagues who put me in for that, and I'm incredibly thankful for that. And just to be a part of that and to be recognized and honored, it was awesome. And I took my son to the game, and we just it was cool. What a class act organization, and it just reinforced so many things why I became a Philadelphia Eagles fan, and
Yep.
they're beyond just a football organization.
Yeah.
It truly speaks to their community involvement.
That's awesome. And again, any way that we can celebrate veterans and military personnel, I love seeing the community celebrating around that is just fantastic. So glad that you're a part of that. But we're here to talk about the GI Bill. We can talk forever on everything else, but I am curious, can you walk through your experience on helping military personnel transition into civilian career? And you mentioned yourself, whether it's with the U.S. Air Force, taking a break and then going to the Air National Guard, you've gotten your bachelor's and a master's degree. I believe you used it differently. Mm-hmm. And so can you walk through sort of your process, what you went through with the GI Bill?
Sure. Happy to. I say this jokingly. I had kind of like a potluck style version of military experience. I started off active duty right out of high school, and I earned, when I got off active duty at the time, it was Chapter 30. It was the GI Bill that was prior to what is the most popular utilized one, Chapter 33, post 9/11. So when I got off active duty, I used that and I started my journey into getting an education. And I used it entirely. And then right around that time, right when I finished up my bachelor's degree, I decided I wanted to get back into the military. Once I got done with my bachelor's degree going to college, I was like, okay, what now?
Yeah.
And it helped me identify, I was like, wow, the military was such a critical part of my life. I want to get back into it, and I did that. So in 2007, I got back into the Air National Guard at Willow Grove Air Reserve Station. And then once I got back in and got up to speed wearing the uniform, I then qualified for the GI Bill Chapter 1606, which is for reservists and National Guard. And I used that. And when I got back from my deployment in 2008 from Afghanistan, it was one of those, what now? What do I do with my life now? Yeah. And I applied for grad school, and I went to Westchester University, and I started my career. I started my education to become a high school guidance counselor. Then I transitioned to a college focused counselor in student affairs. And so that's how I had access. That's why. And then when I exhausted the 1606, I don't remember the exact details, but at some point I became eligible for the Chapter 33 post 9/11 because of my any service past 2008 qualifies.
Right. Exactly.
For post 9/11. So I had access to that. So that's why I said it was like the potluck version, because it's like I used Chapter 30. Went to 1606, and then I finished up using Chapter 33, which allowed me to get my bachelor's degree and master's degree. But in that process, and then the career I had for a while, I learned just how many different access points and places you could use it. I'll be honest with you, at the time, it's for college. I didn't realize the range that you could utilize it for.
Yeah. And that's what, transitioning into like why use it in trucking and transportation. I mean, there's so much, there's always a need. There's always loads that need to be moved, and there's always a need, whether people call it a driver shortage in the trucking industry. It's really a lack of qualified, good drivers, safe drivers. And that's one of the things that I see with like the military, the discipline that they, are just instilled into them, and just even having a good sort of like vision of what they're going to do and what they should do and work towards. Like the trucking industry is exactly, like a perfect mindset of that transition of just being able to, there's a lot of, whether it's moving loads, what do you need to do in that process of hauling a load somewhere else, that discipline that's needed is so highly valuable, and military just fits perfectly into that. So military veterans fit perfectly into that. But then again, even just like, we mentioned, the GI Bill can be used for dependents and so spouses and their kids. That's where I was able to have some access to that when I graduated high school and moved on. But like it was. Trucking and transportation is a career for anybody. And whether you have experience in the military driving a half-ton diesel truck or other crazy equipment, or no experience in that, but you want to do something a little bit different, this is the perfect path that we believe in. I'm curious on your perspective. I know it wasn't through the GI Bill, but you have your CDLB. What's your take on that perspective as well?
You're spot on with providing that general overview,
Yeah.
and I could speak to my experience and kind of what drew me towards it is just being part of logistics and completing a mission, right? That may sound a little like corny in some ways, but like it's like you want to be part of the mission. You want to this is what needs to be done, and this is a means to do it effectively and efficiently. So whether you're the driver, you're part of the cargo crew, there's so many moving parts that are involved in the world of logistics, and getting into the world, a CDL is a great starting point. So for veterans whether they've been out for X amount of time, we all come to terms in our own unique ways, but generalizing here a little bit, you get into uncharted territory. Whether you did 4 years, 6 years, or 30 years in the military, you're entering a world that is different and unique. And CDL allows you to get access to some of those operations that could help transition. And what's nice about the CDL is a lot of you could complete it within a month or two, generally speaking. Yeah. And so if you're coming off active duty and you did your 4 years, 6 years, or even 30 years, right? You're retired and you have 36 months of eligibility from the VA. You have 36 months of use, right? You go to your CDL school, get your CDL, and it's an access point. It sets you up for options, access points to, I want to do this type of driving, or I want to get into this firm, or you could be an independent driver. I mean, there's so many different ways you could do that. And then what's nice about that is you're only using a fraction of your GI Bill.
Exactly.
And then after you complete your training, you get your CDL. Once that's all in the system and gets through, you apply for your certificate of eligibility, and then the VA will tell you have X amount of months left. And then as you get experience in the professional world, and you lean more towards, no, I'm all in with driving, you could go on and step that up through a variety of different ways.
You can get your hazmat endorsement, your doubles endorsement, you can get passengers endorsement. What's fun about the trucking industry too, or transportation in general, hey, what's a CDL do? Well, hey, if maybe you serve 30 years and you want to have a slower, relaxed lifestyle, then hey, my church or the school, they're always looking for a school bus driver. You got to get your CDL for that. Then that's perfect. You can keep it local, keep it, do something relatively easy, and that's your thing. Getting a CDL there is perfect. If you're, hey, maybe you're a diesel mechanic, or you did it for a few years as a diesel mechanic, whether you want to continue your diesel mechanic piece, having a CDL, it gives you more option of, well, then you can test the vehicle, drive the vehicle around as needed as a mechanic, or, okay, cool, now let's take it up a notch and let's start driving loads and just moving around in the career. There's so many different types of things. And then there's like heavy hauling heavy equipment, overweight equipment. There's so many avenues there on that piece of what a CDL can do. So local hotshot, you got your Ford truck, and you're hauling a load commercially. Maybe it's local, but that's a CDLB. Why not get the CDLA? Just a little bit more time involvement, and then it's getting paid for with the military anyway. And then you have that options of being able to grow and move in the career. So that's what I see it as.
I agree. It just sets you up for options to figure it out and explore in a really solution focused way. Yeah. And you always have this tangible resource that will whether you use it or not, like, and you may find out, hey, I want to get more into OSHA, more into the administrative side, but that CDL is an access point, is that first domino that I could help you. You don't have to use a lot of your GI Bill entitlement, or on the flip side, if you only have a little bit left. And I want to emphasize, always the VA always determines what you have left, and always ask the question. Say you have 2 months left of your GI Bill entitlement. Call the VA, say, hey, I'm connected with CNS. I plan on getting my CDLA. Will this cover the duration of the training? Right. Or what do I need for it to cover? So always ask those questions.
CNS Driver Training Center has just changed the status quo and has completely disrupted the current landscape of CDL training. What makes our CDL School diploma programs different? We want to be cost effective and flexible for you, the trainee, not the school. Our Driver Training Center is up to 40% cheaper than competitor programs which focus on training students in groups, not the one-on-one training like us. Who wants to learn how to be a professional driver crammed in the back of a truck with a group of trainees? Ron, get off of me. We offer classroom and online theory training to better accommodate your availability. We developed this from inception so you have the most impactful learning experience. CNS is the first school to be approved by our state for one-on-one Class A CDL training. Our one-of-a-kind CDL training program is designed with the trainee in mind. How? Because the program is specifically focused on the trainee's current aptitude, learning style, and desired job outcome. We're all about delivering high-quality professional truck drivers to our industry in a timely and cost-effective manner. Trucking jobs will always be in demand, and when you're good behind the wheel, making six figures is easily attainable. So why wouldn't you choose CNS for your CDL training? We are the best in our industry, and our trainees back us up. Just look at all the 5-star Google reviews. If you have further questions about our CDL School diploma programs, or if you work for a company and want to learn more about our company contract training, give us a call at 717-496-9145 or email us at support@cnstrains.com. Or you can fill out the form below and somebody will be in contact with you soon. Our nation needs you to keep America moving.
You know, there's a couple resources I wanted to share to kind of another access point to ask is I just through my own experience and just through helping veterans over the years, sometimes you're dialed in, you know exactly what you want to do, where you want to go. Sometimes it's the other way around. Sometimes facilities and opportunities have a way of finding you, and it's really setting yourself up. I'm a big quote geek, is the time to plan for rainy days when the sun is out. So start putting those pieces in place, have an understanding. So whether opportunity comes knocking on your door or you pursue it, it's like, boom, I'm ready to go. And what am I saying here? It's all about that certificate eligibility and knowing what you have, exactly what chapter, so you can manage that and then go to the respective facility. Because I've seen where a veteran can prompt a facility to become an approved facility. Right. And it's like, hey, I'm a veteran. I really want to use my benefit here. And like, oh, okay. And then the facility, like CNS in this case, then reaches out to the state approval agency in Pennsylvania, because that's where you're at in Pennsylvania. And every state has their own SAA. And then they go through the motions of getting approved, and it's win-win for everybody. Exactly. And it preserves the integrity of the GI Bill. It gives the veteran an access point. It helps the organization. It's a win-win. And so I've seen that where it's like the veteran, if it's a newer facility, this is how you go about doing it. And you go through the motions, you go through the approval process, and boom, you become an access point. It's good for the veteran. It's good for the community. It's good for everybody.
Exactly. That's awesome. Now, I do want to talk about sort of this process, especially sort of the where do I begin. The funny thing with the where do I begin is you could currently be in active duty. You know that you're going to be retiring or stepping away. I know the military has different resources for active duty members to transition, to a career, whether it's on a military base or whatever. There's a lot of resources there to help them transition, but maybe they've already retired, and then now they're like, oh, what do I do after the fact? Like, there's a lot of ways to sort of, with this mindset of starting. I'm curious, for a military person specifically, what are some of those starting points?
Great question. The starting point is getting that certificate eligibility, whether you've had 10 years, because there's so much criteria that's contingent upon the veteran's service record. Right. So it's hard to give not hard, but there isn't a straightforward answer, and sometimes, like, if you served in the last 10 years, I could give more of a straightforward answer. Yeah. But for somebody who's been out a little bit, there's different ways. Let the VA determine, and the starting point for that is va.gov // I never forget. I always forget which one. But if you've done va.gov education, you're going to start off with the eligibility. Am I eligible?
Yep.
And that's going to give you, the veteran, or your qualifying dependents, like, yes, you are eligible. This is the next step. And it goes to how to apply. It's the evolution of va.gov over the last couple of years has gotten very user-friendly.
Good.
Yeah, and it's like eligible, how to apply, where, and then how to apply for your respective benefit, and then you have what you need. Then you go to the facility, whether they're an approved facility or they become an approved facility. Hey, this is my certificate of eligibility that guarantees my respective benefit.
They'll receive a letter or a certificate in the mail or email, or is it?
Well, that's both. I know when I did it years ago, it was in the mail.
Yeah.
But it's, as most operations are, they're going all electronic.
Yeah.
And there's different hubs to do that, but va.gov will give you those options. Yep. And also too, what's nice about that, like what to do after you apply. It gives you a status update and all that stuff.
Good.
And they also have educational career counseling. So if you're not real sure,
exactly,
it's an access point for you to process to, like, oh yeah, I'm all in for this CDL, because it's, for a number of reasons, it makes sense. It's going to lead to pretty, in the grand scheme of things, short-term employment. I mean, you're going to have to turn offers away if you get once you get your CDL. It's like you're going to have your pick. Just my understanding of it, and it'll help you manage your benefits. And there's other resources as well on there. And another good resource as well. So va.gov benefits is a great starting point. Probably the best starting point as far as for you because you're going to the source.
Yes.
You're going directly to the source. So that takes it all confusion and all that stuff. And it's like, if you're eligible, great. Boom, this is how you proceed. And then from there, as they say, the world is your oyster, right? So you go there and then you find and you proceed. Also, while you're doing that too, if you need some clarity on the type of CDL and exactly it may sound simple, but it's not. Like what exactly does a truck driver do? It's pretty expansive what you could do. Like with the CDLB, you could drive a dump truck, you could drive the small, and that may be your thing. But like you mentioned already, CDL will give you the full range of that. And if you go to ONET, it's ONET online. And I forget what O stands for. It's like occupational net. You type in truck driver, it's going to give you a variety of different types of truck driving you can do. Yeah. And it's a good starting point. And there's also a link under there as well. That's mynextmove.org. And that's help transitioning veterans understand, and you could put in what you did, whether what branch of service. I know Air Force is AFSC, Army, Marine Corps is MOS, Navy's rating, and anyway, you put that in, and it could correlate. It could help you understand. Well, you did this, and it absolutely does apply to the trucking field because of X, Y, and Z. You'd be surprised. Just because you were never behind a wheel or you weren't in the world of logistics, you were still part of some sort of, logistics touches everybody.
Exactly.
Some way, shape, or form. And CDL just gives you more of a direct approach to it.
Exactly. Fantastic. And we'll definitely have any of those links that he's mentioning. We're going to have it down in the bio below. I'll probably even have it pop up on the screen so you guys can have access to it. Fantastic. So getting your GI Bill benefit, making sure your certificate saying, yes, I am eligible for this. Is there any kind of eligibility difference for let's say a veteran to transferring any of those the qualifications to your dependent or spouse?
So I will say this, and this is not the end-all be-all statement here, but my understanding of it was, in order to, so if it's post 9/11,
Right.
Chapter 30, the service member has to do that prior to their retirement.
Before their retirement. Okay.
Before they, now that may change by the time we're done talking today. Like
True.
policies are always changing. Like, and this is going back. Like it's always evolving.
Yes.
The benefit and access to it's always evolving with the good and best intent in mind, generally speaking. So to transfer that benefit, yes, if we're talking Chapter 33 post 9/11. Generally speaking, you have to do that while you're in active duty or in a military status.
Yep.
There is a benefit called Chapter 35 called Survivor's Benefit. So depending on the veteran and what their service connection and what their rating is, then their dependents may qualify for that. And it comes back to that certificate of eligibility.
Yeah.
So it would start off at va.gov education, and then they would, if you meet the metric, plug in all the information, and then that doesn't happen when you're active duty. When you get service connected and all that, and if you meet that criteria, then the VA will tell you, yes, you and your respective dependents, spouse, children, etc., they would qualify for that. And Chapter 35 can be used for CDL. And non-college degrees as well.
Perfect. All right, so they got their eligibility, and I know you mentioned, hey, if you got your eligibility, if they already know about, hey, CNS Driver Training Center is an approved CDL school with the GI Bill, what if they don't know that yet? Is there a search tool to look for available schools in the area, or?
So there's a couple ways to do this, and sometimes a veteran knows exactly, like, say this is home for them, or in the general area, like they know, like, all right, I know I'm physically coming back to the Lancaster Lidditz area, right? And then they narrow it down to X. Okay, what CDL schools are in, if they're that like really focused and dialed in as far as focus on CDL school. So and then they go to CNS and say, hey, are you a GI Bill facility? And that answer is yes. It's like, oh, well, that's the easiest, most effective way. On the flip side, sometimes veterans want to relocate to an area that's going to give them the best opportunity, whether access to schools, type of school, all that stuff. So wherever that area is in the country, right? That veteran goes there, and it's like, okay, where do I go from here?
Yeah.
Or they're actually looking for this. Let me retract that a little bit. Mm-hmm. They know that they want to go to a high-rated and a highly respectable CDL school, and then that's the driving force to the location. So they could, classic Google reviews, and they could reach out to, ONET. And mynextmove.org will help them do that. And as a facility gets builds up their reputation and I'll call it their clientele as far as veterans use that it's all going to be good information. And it's going to be accessible that way.
Perfect.
And they could reach out too, and as I think of some other things, it'll come to mind. But I think between those two, sometimes the area will help you find that CDL school, or you actually have a specific CDL school, and all right, I'm relocating, I'm moving there, I'm starting there.
Perfect. So how long was that approval process to getting approved and knowing that you're qualified? How long does that tend to take if you're trying to to get your GI Bill approval?
Oh, so you mean like coming from active duty, or you're going from a military status to a veteran status? Yeah. I don't know off the top of my head but I know they start, like when you start to out-process, and the military knows that, all right, this person is, whether they're retiring or they're completing their enlistment, it starts that process. So you could start that prior to your final out-processing date. And that way it's there in hand too as well. Nice. And also too, I know we're talking GI Bill benefits, but the certificate of eligibility also applies to the VA home loan as well. So you hear that twice, like COE, certificate of eligibility, applies to your GI Bill benefits and also to your pursuit of buying a home. But, to go back to your question is, you could start that. Or if you didn't, if you don't have it in hand, then you go to that va.gov education. And now with everything accessible and digitally accessible online, you could get it fairly quick. If not produced almost right there in the moment online through the respective portal.
So the other question I have with the GI Bill is, what can I use the money for? What's it available for? So there's like, for example, if they come here, there's the cost of tuition. Other schools, there might be cost for books. There's cost for living expenses. Maybe they're traveling from their home to this location. What kind of costs can potentially be picked up?
So if we're referring to the Chapter 33 post 9/11, which is your most common and utilized one, generally speaking, it's going to cover tuition and fees.
Right.
That have been approved and that are accounted for via that process. You also, too, with that, so whether it's a CDL school, we'll call it NCD, a non-college degree school, or your traditional school,
right,
you also get a housing stipend based off your rate of pursuit. And if you have a full-time schedule, then you're going to get the full-time rate based off a 30-day criteria, 30 or 31 days. So you get that housing rate to pay for that, and you also get a book stipend as well. So that again, that's I say that like that is a standard to approve tuition and fees, housing allowance, and your book stipend. That's Chapter 33. So that's for veterans and their respective benefits who have that was transferred to while the veteran was on active duty or in a military status.
And the other chapters can be a little bit different?
It is. So if you're using the Chapter 16, so if you're Guard or Reserves and you're using that, you get a GI Bill kicker. It's all contingent upon your enlistment contract in the respective Guard Reserve unit that you're in. It's a monthly stipend that you use.
Okay.
So this is important to know because Chapter 33 and 9/11 has been, I don't want to say the standard, but the most referenced GI Bill chapter. Correct. So you as the veteran, you get the X amount of money, whatever it is, based off rate of pursuit. It's your responsibility to pay that.
Okay.
To pay your respective tuition. And that's important for facilities to know too. Sometimes people, GI Bill, therefore tuition is going to be paid for. You have to be aware of what chapter it is. So if it's 1606, it means the student and the trainee is going to pay their respective tuition fees, whether it's through that monthly stipend that they get through the VA or through another means of paying for it.
Right. And I'm glad to have you on here to be able to touch on all these different perspectives, because, I mean, that's, for our audience, there's a lot of different ways people might be approaching this. So it's awesome that you're talking about this. I hear an airplane flying over.
Yeah.
We have an airport nearby. I don't know if they can hear it, but...
No, it's a great sound.
Yeah, oh man, I miss I'm an Air Force brat, but having like F-16s fly over, F-15s, helicopters, CH-130s. We called them wop wops when we were like 3, because it was like wop 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 wop.
Oh yeah, like, the rotor ring sound. It's. I was stationed at Eielson Air Force Base, my first duty station.
Really?
It was F-16s, and the dorms that I lived in as a young airman, it was right by the flight line, and it's pretty interesting how you get used to that sound. And I worked night and evening. I was like a mid-shift guy, and I worked. So I had a unique sleeping schedule. So they would fly during the day, but I would sleep right through it. Yeah. I don't know if it's because of my age and just but it's.
I remember when I went to college or something like that, and anytime, an aircraft flies over that's shocking or loud, like, so Portland, Oregon, I lived in Oregon. In the Oregon area, we have F-15s in the Portland area, and if they were to fly over our school or anything, you just see everybody just look up.
Oh, yeah.
And for me, I'm like, I was it was just normal. I would just keep going.
There they go.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, it's funny to see that perspective.
I think, you know what, the coolest sound takeoff I ever, it was the B1, which I think there's 4 F-16 engines, whatever Pratt Whitney, whatever engines there's 4 F-16. So it's like an F-16 times 4. It was the most like intense takeoff. I was working EOR, it's called end of runway. So I was, I don't know, like 100 yards away. It's like, man, you
feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, it goes through you. It's like, whoa, what just happened? So
that's awesome. So Eielson, that's
I was in Alaska. Yeah.
That's where my dad, where we were stationed. Well, so my dad was forward air control. We served with the Army Rangers. So I lived on Army posts most of my life, but the Air Force Base was Eielson. That was nearby.
Oh, so it was Fort Wainwright.
I was Fort Wainwright was where I was, and the only time that I lived on an Air Force Base was when we lived in Hawaii, because Hickam Air Force Base, it's an island. So like we could live on Hickam Air Force Base, and then my dad would go to Wheeler Army, the Army post there. So that was like the only time I lived on. Like when I lived in Germany, we were on Wiesbaden Army Airfield.
Oh, you had some cool duty stations. You were in PAC of the Pacific Air Force. So you went from Alaska to Hawaii, and then you were Germany's great. That's
where I graduated high school. So I got to have a fun experience and enjoy it fully as a teen. So
that's cool to hear.
Yeah. No, I definitely enjoyed my my military. You know, as a military brat, there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah.
And you sometimes just got to dive into the joy of it all and the culture that you get to experience. And so I got to enjoy that. But anyway, so back to the GI Bill stuff. So I think we talked about everything here on the process, the different perspectives that you can have in approaching it. The last couple of things is sort of any challenges or advice, going through this process. So what challenges do veterans or their families face when transitioning from, say, military life to maybe into a new career, or challenges with the GI Bill process? So like what are some of those like mentorship tips that you might have?
Oh, wow. How much time do we have?
10 minutes left. No.
Great question. And honestly, this is, as we open up, like, this is what's so great about opportunities like this, just to peel back the layers and just kind of talk about the challenges that do come with it, because they are there. What I would say is it's going to be overwhelming, and that comes with the territory. Yeah. It just is, because you're set up for these access points, but the number of access points can be overwhelming, and you get lost in translation. And the sooner you acknowledge that and identify that, you could start asking the right questions, whether it's internally or reaching out to a mentor, reaching out to one of the external source websites that we have. Don't hesitate to ask, and it's going to feel a little vulnerable. It's going to feel awkward, and it's okay to not know. It really is. Yeah. And it's okay to have multiple ideas. Like, I think it's a blessing. Somebody who's that dialed in, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and they have their whole life scripted on. They always know what the next step is. That's not very common. Yep. Yeah. And so just stay the course. Utilize the resources that are out there. Talk to trusted friends, family. Talk to there's a lot of good VA resources out there, whether it's therapy and it's just talk therapy. You don't have to have anything wrong with you to go to therapy, just to talk. We need to process. That was the military is very well known for their acronyms. My personal acronym is APA, AAPPA. Acknowledge, accept, process, plan, action. Right? That's what I use to recalibrate myself, whether it's for a formal, what am I going to do next, using this benefit, this resource, figuring out what my next step is. But the big part of that is processing that and identifying those. They're out there. You just have to discipline yourself and be comfortable with being a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It is how I kind of frame it, and ask those questions and allow yourself to not have it all figured out, and just start that journey and just continue to learn from your mistakes. And when things don't go according to plan, like, all right, we got this. Like in the military, like, there's fun ways we could say this, like plan A, what's plan B, to figure out how plan A works.
Yep.
Or there's another, if plan A doesn't work out, there's 25 more letters in the alphabet, right? No,
Exactly.
and it's
Exactly.
true, like just really allowing yourself to be okay with that.
Yeah.
And what's nice about the GI Bill is you have those lateral shifts to be able to do that while also accessing the resources in the VA itself. It may be a little bit challenging to get your foot in the door sometimes, is understanding where to start. But that, to me, in my experience, that's the hardest part. But once you have a generalized baseline and tools in your toolbox to use, boom, you use them and you utilize them and recalibrate yourself. And just because you used it a couple years ago, you gotta calibrate that tool and put a little effort into it to get the most productivity out of it.
Awesome. Yeah, that was fabulous advice. I know, when you're transitioning, my perspective when I was a kid was like, oh, well, we got to move to a new place. My mind was shifted, was being willing and able to make that transition because it's happening. But yeah, having access and being open to, again, maybe you might be retiring and, maybe your home is in one area, but honestly, what's so fabulous about the GI Bill and the benefits that you have access to, it's like, pick where you want to go.
Yeah.
And you can go the school of your choice, potentially, the CDL school of your choice, anywhere in the U.S., other places. Like, I know when I was, going to college, I felt my dad was still going to be in the military, so I'm going to be away from my family anyway. I can go anywhere in the U.S. if I wanted to go to college.
In addition to what we just talked about with the therapy, also too, there's support groups out there that just could have, like, it could be vocational focus centric. Yep. Also too, volunteering. There's a lot of organizations out there. I've had the good fortune to be part of the Travis Manning Foundation. I lost count. Like I said, the years really blank. I don't really keep track.
2015, so 7 years.
I think
10 years. It's 2025.
Is it? I forget when I officially. But I've been doing it enough to be consistent. But then you tap into a world of resources and network, because you have individuals from all walks of life who could be your mentor. Who it's a direct line of. It's another access point, and you get to connect with the community, do things. So whether it's Travis Manning Foundation, whether it's volunteering for a local organization, just doing something, you'd be surprised who you could connect with to help figure it out. And we got to wander a little bit. That's what's the JK talking. Not all those who wander are lost. It's okay. We've got to wander a little bit. Be a hopeful wanderer. I love Mumford & Sons, like a hopeful wanderer, and serious, but it really allows you to find your course and so whether it's a volunteer organization, it's like your lighthouse, your beacon of guidance too, and you'd be surprised how things fall into place unexpectedly, in really good ways. Let's talk to firms who are out there. To go to if you want to be a local driver, talk to a local hub. Yep. If you want to do over the road, go to I'm trying to think of over the road. What I'm drawing a blank on some of the names, but go to talk to people who are in the field, and you'd be surprised. A lot of them will be veterans. Like, hey, this is how I got my CDL. Yep. Hey, CNS was the place to go, and this is why, because it could lead you here if you want for over the road, or if you want to be regional or local too, that's fine. Yep. But go to the source. That's what I should have said. It's like, just like you go to the VA.gov for the GI Bill source, go to the source where you think you may want to be a driver. Yeah. And you'd be surprised how the pieces can fall into place for that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, Matthew, thank you so much for coming out here and talking to us about this, breaking down this process. If you have any questions of whether it's the GI Bill, anything, any other details, let us know in the comments below. We'll have Matthew's information that we can help answer those questions. And again, we're going to have all of those resources that he's mentioned, whether it's the va.gov/education website to go to start your GI Bill process, and the other tools that he mentioned. We're going to put that in the description, and utilize that. And then, feel free to do your research and ask questions with us. We can pass you on. We can get you talking with other, whether it's trucking companies too, of being like, hey, there's certain fleets that have drivers with a lot of veterans and a veterans program potentially. And so we can get you connected with them and know that there's going to be people that have a little bit of experience with, where your background might be coming from. So ask questions, let us know, and we'll pass anything off to Matthew as we go. But again, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, stay safe out there.